see. Well, with my TV out of commission right now, I'm still not going to be able to make too many more videos, so what I'm going to do instead is turn my focus towards everything else that I've been thankful for. Because I can tell that with the TV going out right now, and me kind of not having a lot to do other than just my artwork and a little bit of writing from what I can do. It's time for me to try and really sit back and reflect on a lot of the pros and cons of what's been going on so far over the course of this year. And just be appreciative of what's happened, and reflect on what it is that has happened. So, because what a lot of people didn't realize is that 2015 here was my debut year. I started my channel back on April the 6th. And since then, I've been making a really solid impact in the online community and the YouTube community. I've even had the opportunity and the blessing to reach a total of 99 subscribers. Through the course of 1 year, I managed to make just about 300 videos and reach 99 subscribers. And that's a really, really powerful blessing in itself. And so to my 99 subscribers, for each and every one of you, I do thank you for following my journey. I can't do this without you. I can't be anybody unless I have at least one subscriber that can spread my work around. And I got 99 of them. Short of 100, it's still pretty good. It's very, very good. I remember a very long point when I had none. And when you're trying to get your push in the YouTube world, it's very difficult to get your feet planted. So once you get it going, after however long, keep that ball rolling, and you'll get it going. You'll get a whole lot of people following you. My channel has also been able to go into a lot of different directions, and that I can also be happy about, because I managed to put into it a lot of different types of videos, from let's play videos to documentation type of videos to even videos about my artwork recently that I posted, and videos about my poetry that I've been writing about video games and about life events for the past 11, 12 years or so. And I'm pretty sure as life goes on, I can probably try to add a little bit more to it. We'll see. There's some videos I know I can't make anymore because there's a couple of inconsistencies that have occurred. Like, for instance, the end of the PlayStation Home. Because there were a lot of videos I wanted to try and make there, but I was only able to make the one at that time. Because my recording equipment, all I'm using right now is just a regular Kodak recorder camera that does 180 pixels or 720 frame. I don't have the Elgato or any equipment like that that can do faster streaming, faster recording, all that stuff with a crisper quality. Because it requires money which I don't have, because I have it all now tied up in fixing the television. And I know once that gets fixed, the budget's going to be even more scarce, and so I can kiss goodbye getting the Elgato for Christmas, or trying to even get it around Black History Month or anything like that. Because all the finances, if that, once I go over all the bills and stuff, it's going to balance out maybe at around February, late March. And then plus, on top of that, rent and car notices and all the rest of that epic shit. And so, I'm just going to be settling for the long haul using this camera. The interesting part about this, though, is that this camera was originally not mine. This camera belongs to number 7Z, John. He's the one that also occasionally helps me out with my channel. He's been in a few of my videos. He's been in a few of my Call of Duty videos, because he does that with his brother up at the house, up the street. And he's been in my my Yu-Gi-Oh video that talked about when we were just playing with cards and just talking about things going on, which is no different than what we do up at the card shop. A question that came to mind over a couple of other YouTubers that have been following my work, they were wondering, why did I decide on doing video game poetry pieces? Like making videos about video game poetry. I told them that the idea that came to mind when I wanted to do video game poetry was to do something pioneering, something that nobody else on the planet has done. You have the opportunity to do it with everything that the internet can do, but have not done it because no one's taken the time to really think that far ahead in what the online world could offer you with something so incredibly specific. If you go to look into video game poetry, you see one or two people that have a segment, but it goes into what it is that they like. It doesn't go into anything that they don't like, and it doesn't go into a general emotional or psychological tone. It's like someone just wrote it down on a piece of paper and then pre-recorded it, put it on YouTube, and boom, you're done. Yeah, and that's essentially the mindset that comes with it, yes. But what you want to try and do to expand the notion of this is to focus on video games that you've played personally, like you've done everything there is to do in the video game. That way you can get a different tone from everything you're doing. You want to focus on video games that you have not played. That way it also incorporates to a bigger fan base, because you're also incorporating something that's out of your comfort zone. And you also want to have it be consistent. It doesn't have to rhyme, but you want to have the setup for your structure already pre-done. So rhyming is an easy way out, it's an easy way in and an easy way out. What you want to try and do is set up a specific type of poem structure that you want, and then go over the process and writing it out, and then pre-recording your voice and adding it, and then going over it like you normally would. You want to start out with a regular limerick or a stanza, or maybe even a couplet. For me, what I have it done on most of them that I've done, I have it set up in a normal poetry fashion for that, or I have it set up for cinquains, and I have it set up in rhythmic couplet format. I did have some fun playing with limericks and with haikus. I'm still trying to see if I can't dig those up, because those are in a lot of my earlier works of video game poetry from years ago. And then there's well, I guess like with this particular segment, there's also nostalgic stuff that you can go into. And with nostalgic stuff, you also want to try and this also will expand your appeal sense, because you're expanding your stuff to something that you generally may not be aware of, because it was something outside your generation. It's something before your time, which is what I did with one of my segments, the one in question in front of you here. Is that I wanted to try to appeal to people from my generation. That way they can get a better sense of where I come from and the type of things I've seen and what it is that's really affected me and what it is that I cherish most in the cartoons I watch and in the anime I watch, or in the movies that I watch, or in the video games that I play, or in the things that I see or that I absorb that become a part of me. Things that I can't feel from this generation right now because it's so hollow and meaningless and for money. And it just falls on a black heart for me. Because I can't really absorb myself into too much stuff of the now, because there's so much of the now that is not of the then, or doesn't take from then like it should. It doesn't take from the past like it should in order to try and keep those values going. And I don't know, it just falls on it for me. I can't really explain it, but if the viewers already know what I'm talking about, then thank you for kind of stepping over it for me, because it's a difficult thing to try and explain with a whole internet technology era where everybody has an opinion, but at the same time doesn't have an opinion, because when you go to try and put something out or express your concern of it, and you know that there's a good chance hundreds of thousands of people probably feel the exact same way you do, dislike, unsubscribe, and all the rest of that dumbass shit. And it's very, very annoying when you can give fools that type of power. But this is the world, this is the era we have right now. And until it becomes a lot more controlled, this is where we are. Even now, when I take the opportunity to really take a step back and go over the amount of progress that I've done over the past year since coming to YouTube, and the whole having the online world come to me and having the opportunity to be a part of something really big, I take the opportunity now to really think back to all those years ago when I first pursued my journey to accomplishing my goal. And when I thought back to all those years ago, to when I thought in high school when I first did this, that it never would have amounted to something as big as this, but it has. And I remember that whole video game tournament that we had back at the anime club. It was back in 2007. Because I remember me and my friends spent a long period of time getting a sponsor to sign up for it. We had to find sponsors from the club in order to sign up for this. I had to bring it to the principal's office and to the executives, their secretaries, in order to tell them what it is we're doing here, the PlayStation 2s that we're bringing, the game that we're bringing. It's going to be only in this particular room. It's going to be for a couple of weeks, maybe about a month or so. But it's not going to be sitting there. We're going to take it home, and the next day or whatever, we'll bring it back. There's a lot of stuff to go through, but the principal was really cool. She did let us go through with it, because it was the end of the year. Seniors were graduating. It was all good, and she was giving us She was giving us a golden go-ahead. She was like, yeah, you guys go on ahead, have your fun. It's all good here. As long as you keep it sensible and you invite the right people, don't let any of those slackers or fools in your club, you're good. You're not going to get in trouble. All you got to do is make sure that make sure that you're still early or that you're still on time for your class after lunch ends. And you got no problem from security and no problem from the principal. That's how you do it. And so we had our video game tournament. This is when we were doing PlayStation 2. We had Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 and Budokai Tenkaichi 3 when it came out that preceding summer. And so we just bumped it up to Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Spent like a whole month. I spent a whole month before practicing for that month or so coming. There were like 35 or something people that had signed up for that tournament, and only 8 people had actually showed up. And it was like the most stupid ass thing ever that had happened. But that's people for it. That's kids for you. That's people. You got a whole bunch of people that are going to sign up but end up not coming at all because of detention or bullshitting or not caring or other things to do. And it's fascinating ignorance. Funny, I was laughing myself stupid, but it still is stupid. Long story short, I got to the final round of the tournament at the end of the month, end of February-ish or so. I was there against the captain of the wrestling team that knows like all the Dragon Ball Z games. And he was very difficult to beat, because I mean, I had to do the whole Super Saiyan 2 Gohan thing against his Gogeta, because he had like every single version of Goku for his team, because it was a 5-on-5 team thing that you could do in Budokai Tenkaichi 3, because you could do 5-on-5 layout. And every single person on his roster was Goku from a different era that has different power outputs. He had it from back in the day Goku to Kaioken Goku, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, to specific Super Saiyan 2, and then also popped in a Vegeta. That way Super Saiyan 2 and Vegeta can go Super Saiyan 2, Fusion, Gogeta, and it cranks it up even more. And the thing is that he knows how to time it very, very perfectly, and it's commendable. He gave me a very rough run for my money back then. And in the end, I was so close when I did the Father-Son Kamehameha against the Big Bang Kamehameha. I had to keep rotating the controller. I almost like busted. I almost like broke the shit. I ended up winning. I won the tournament. Apparently beat out everybody in the school. Although I was telling the sponsors, beating out everybody in the school is nice, but it doesn't really sound nice when you realize that it's only 8 people that joined the whole tournament in the first place. It's out of my hands. And then it was around that time when I realized, and I told my friend about this, I told Patrick, that I wanted to try and do something more with my dream. Because what I have here now is an opportunity to try and grasp this. In addition with my art, trying to do politics, my writing, and now I can probably try and see what I can do with the video games. Even though video games can't really be taken seriously, I decided, you know what? I should probably try and be one of the first people that can make something very serious about this happen. Not start some shit, but actually try to follow a dream where video games is my end goal. It's my beginning, but it's also my end. And that's when I decided, and I settled upon the idea that instead of trying to be the best gamer in the school, I want to try and be the best gamer in this state. And realizing that aforementioned statement, it would take a very long time for me in order to accomplish that goal. And there were a lot of steps that I had to go through in order to pace this out bit by bit by bit. And there was a lot that I didn't know of at that time, and there was a lot that I couldn't really fathom I couldn't fathom the whole entirety of it, because it was a lot of stuff to start with, because I had to start with what console I'm going to do. I had to start with the people that would try and help me. I had to start with what direction I want to go with this, like in what way do I want to do higher up type of video gaming, or higher up type of gaming, or expert level, pseudo expert level? Do I want to montage it? Do I want to monologue it? Do I want to do documentaries about video games? Like, what am I doing here? And this is where I had to go through a lot of counsel to figure it out, but there was a lot of stuff that had happened after I graduated that set me into a very long depression. There was a lot of stuff that happened after graduation. And it was one day I was just in such a very depressed mood that I just really just had enough of myself. And I almost just really wanted to hurt myself, because I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice, couldn't stand constantly getting up every day and seeing nothing, and giving up a lot of the stuff that I had fought for and that I had worked for in college, and just gave that up for family that doesn't appreciate it, and that did not appreciate it at that time because they chose to be selfish. I decided that if my talents are all I have left to encompass and to work with, then I'll work around just that. Okay, to resume, I had a partial interruption earlier. To resume where I was last, in acknowledging the dream I had to become the best gamer in the state of Maryland. I originally did have it at high school, but I wanted to try and have it go even further than that, because it was something that I was really good with. And then little by little over the years, I set out my game plan. I wrote it all down. I wrote it all down bit by bit. I had originally 17, 19 different steps of how to write it down, where I wanted to start by doing ultra boss hunting, which how I originally got started is by hunting the hardest bosses to find in the game, which you usually find post-game, not so much in story mode. And then from there, I also want to accomplish as much as I can in a game, and then acquire full completion, or for the PlayStation, in terms of what happens in 2009 onward, when they introduced the concept of trophy collection, you can acquire platinum status. And platinum status is full mastery of a game's play, or full 100% completion and collectible of everything having to been done in that game. You're done. You don't need to play it anymore, unless you just want to just play it for fun, or more than fun. And I followed that outline for myself. I followed that path, year after year, and then game after game after game after game. I completed hundreds of different types of games, for between the PlayStation Portable, the Game Boy Advanced SP, a couple for the Nintendo GameCube, one for the Xbox. I don't personally own Xbox. Friend borrowed, long story. The PlayStation 2, I've had like a total of 60 to 70 different games at least that I know of on the PlayStation 2 that I've completed. And for the PlayStation 3, all the games that I own, for the most part, and some games that I have not owned but rented, and some games that I no longer own. I no longer have ownership of. And so I've covered the board 7 to 8 different angles. And I try to chalk it up and reevaluate it each year to try and make sure that I still stay focused on my goal. Always want to stay focused on your goal. That way you never lose sight of what's important. And the one thing I realized when I was talking about this with Patrick was that I was always afraid of losing sight of what I was fighting for and what I was working for. Because I had nothing left after graduating. And then all I had to work with on my lap was just my art, my video games, and my writing. Other than that, that's about it. But he assured me that as long as you keep doing what you're doing, you'll find what you're searching for. This is what he told me. And so I stuck by that, and I always just kept working towards it. And then as things kept getting harder and harder for me to complete by myself, I reached a point where it took a lot more time to get things done, because it was a lot of pressure to try and get it done, in addition with other personal affairs that are going on. It just added pressure to it. And then playing video games no longer became fun, it now became work. It became something that I didn't want to do, it became something that I have to do. And thus it took the fun out of playing video games. And that's sort of where the poetry part came into play. That way, when I complete a video game and I get platinum status for it, or I complete an ultra boss battle, I write a small piece about it, and then I just say my piece, and we're good. And I look back on it now, and I almost do kind of regret the fact that a video game is supposed to be for fun, but there were many different times that I never really took it for fun. I always took it as work, and always striving to be the best in the wrong way, I feel now. And then there was one day, a couple years ago, because I've been originally working on the whole dream by myself for like the past 5 years, 5.5 years. I was at Patrick's house one day. Me, him, and his dad sat down one time, and we were just talking about everything that's come full circle so far regarding what it is I was doing, and what it is I'm working, and what it is I'm trying to work towards. And so we just sat and we just talked about it. It was like, what are you really working for? I never really thought to ask you all these years, Dion. Because, I mean, you work a lot on playing these games, and I don't know if they really are like fun anymore. But I read your work every now and again, and you're doing very good progress, but what is it that you're really working towards? And Patrick asked me a very good question that time, because I had to really stop and think about that while we were playing Zelda, because I wasn't entirely sure I wasn't entirely sure how to answer that question. The main thing about what it is I wanted to try and do in becoming the most powerful or the best gamer in this state was because I wanted to try to accomplish something that nobody else in the world can do but me. Something that was special, that only I could do. As long as I set my mind to it, it was something that only I could do and nobody else could do, despite how hard they would try. And years go by, and that point has still been proven, but still there's something missing, and I could never grasp it, because I always need help with these things, because it's not something I can always figure out on my own, because it takes hours and hours to figure out by myself what it is that could take 15-20 minutes, a half an hour maybe, if I'm just sitting there talking with somebody else and gather their perspective of what they know about me and all the stuff that I've been working for all these years, and they could gather it if they really cared enough to give me a response. But the main part about it was to always strive to make something happen that nobody else in the world can do but me. And when I accomplish that feat in making it happen, and making something happen that nobody else in the world can do but me, when I become the best gamer in this state, what I wanted to do was then use that influence to make a difference for this state. And by doing that, that takes a lot more work and it takes a lot more comprehension, because there's a lot of complexities and inadequacies and stereotypical bullshitting that goes on in this state. And so trying to make a difference for it in my specific view is very, very difficult. It's like trying to find out where it is that I really belong in the world. And that's something I still don't know where. I feel I should know by now, but I don't know where it is. And yet I still keep searching because it's a necessary endeavor in order to find peace in a day-to-day activity. And whatever day-to-day activity I would do, it's a necessary endeavor in order to find peace with myself. Around the time of 2013, 2014, after I accomplished getting another platinum, because I know 2014 was when I got 5 or 6 platinums in one go. I got 5 or 6 platinums completed in 1 year. And that was more than what I was able to do collectively over the course of all 5 years past combined. And this was because of Patrick being there with me the whole time. And I brought it to his attention that, with the next step coming, because after completing all 17, 19 steps over the past 5 years, after completing all 19, almost 20 steps essentially, the next thing I needed to do now, after having all the platinums I needed, having all the practice I need on multiple different stereotypical game frames and platforms in order to have a good grasp on it, having been able to match and successfully beat both semi-professionals and some professionals in some genres, I felt that I was ready to move on to the next step, which was now to have more online incorporated experiences. Not so much offline, but I need more online. That way I can get more practice and more application with other players that are at my level, or even those that are stronger than me. Because there's something to always learn from battling people. Be they weaker than you or stronger than you, there's always something to take away. And I told him that and I told Patrick that I really needed his help, because what it is that's about to happen next with my journey, I can't do it by myself, because it's going to take too much time and it's going to take too much work in order to get very little accomplished. And there's nobody else that I trusted but him, because he's been in complete support of my dream from the very beginning. When I first told him that, all the way back all those years ago in high school, back when we were freshmen, sophomore, whatever, when I told him that I really wanted to try and do something with video games one day, and just see if I can't try and be the best at playing video games. I mean, everybody I know laughed at me, but he did not laugh at me. He took it very seriously. He was just like, "Oh, okay." And I looked at him and was like, "Wait, you're not laughing at me?" And looked back at me and was just like, "Yeah, why would I? It's a dream that you want to accomplish. And with enough practice, and if you keep at it long enough, it's something that will come true." Anybody worth their salt knows that anything that's relevant now started out as a dream that somebody thought up in their head at some point. And if you stay at it long enough in order to realize it, actualize the reality, what it was that was a dream can now become a piece of reality. And in terms of being a piece of reality, can then be a piece of heaven, because it's something that you were able to bring to life. This is what he told me. And that really meant a lot to me. All of our other friends back then just laughed at it and really didn't think too much of it. They didn't think I was serious. Hell, even over the years past nowadays that we're all adults, half of them still never took me seriously. That's why I didn't really bother bringing it up anymore. But he stuck by me every single time. And all the times I've talked to him about it, times I mentioned it to him and worked with him on it, he's always been in complete support. And that's more than I could have. That's more than I could ever ask for. And so that's why I thought of him. If I want to try and go higher up with this, and then once I do complete it, take that next step in going to making a difference, which means that I want to try and start by looking into activism, in video game activism, and see if I can't try and do mini politics type of work in expanding video games and taking a look into the darker history of video games. I wanted to do all of this with him, and it was something that me and him could find a lot of really good joy in because we got a chance to take a look into a lot of interesting court cases of the past with a lot of video games and video game corporations like Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft and Dell. Man, there was so many controversial court cases about even so many different things that have happened because they want to blame video games. And then you take a look at particular franchises like Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto and those types of things that makes things realistic, but needlessly realistic in certain places. They make it too realistic, and they base things off of real life events, and they put it in the hands of the player to play through it, and you're murdering and killing all these people, all these killing sprees, and it's just grotesque and horrible because a lot of that shit actually happened in real life, and people take it personally, and those companies can get away with that because there's always something high. There's always something else involved. They give you the option to skip it, but people don't skip that shit. Not if you really have a bloodlust. And so so that was our work. He was helping me to complete my dream on different platforms and different layers. And that way, when it all comes together, it's all one click. And it was then I realized how I wanted all this to come together. And I told him precisely how I wanted all this to come together. I want to keep working to be the best in the state. I want to be higher. And when the online world started coming into play a little bit, and I understood about what leaderboards are, I wanted to try and have a high place on multiple different leaderboards. I don't have to have number one on every single leaderboard of most games that I play. I want to have a high ranking on a number of different video games that I play. A high ranking in totality equals a very high ranking globally or regionally. Regionally is where I want to focus because regionally is this area, not the whole wide world. Whole wide world is where I'm not trying to go to. That's state level and beyond. I'm trying to just reach state level. And I found out that what I want to do when I do accomplish my dream in being the best, I want to permanently retire from playing video games on a serious note. I'm not going to play video games seriously ever again. I'm just playing for fun. And then use all the work that I've accomplished in my video games, use that in my artwork, and make a canvas piece of every single difficult battle that I've had in order to reach a new level. In order to reach a new ascension, I want to make a poster piece of every single battle that I've had, both against other players, secret bosses and hidden bosses, and probably people in real life. Because there are some walls in real life I have to surpass in order to reach that next level of understanding that I need to go to. Next, after the canvas piece is done, I wanted to pursue video game activism, because video game activism has not been done in a positive light. It's always been done negatively because there's always a negative thing that someone has to say about video games. There's never a positive. And at the top of those negative things is a renowned anti-video game activist by the name of Jack Johnson. That's a prime target. And I'm sure there are lots of anti-video game activists, but the problem is that there are no pro-video game activists. And I researched this for years about why there are no pro-video game activists, when there are positive aspects that can come out of video games being an experience that someone goes through. There's a number of them. There's a number of bad experiences, yes, if you let the influences override good judgment. which I'm sure some people probably do. There are also good things that come out of playing video games, such as good exercise, good hand-eye coordination and hand-eye control. There's good memorization, understanding about how to control money, understanding about leadership and responsibility. So a whole lot of really unique things that you learn that the companies and corporations, interestingly enough, can put in a video game's natural gameplay in order to give you an experience on multiple different levels. In addition to enjoying a very good sense of graphic design, because playing a video game is also a form of art. Because a video game is an entire real life graphic design work that you can put yourself into personally. And there's so much that you can grasp from a video game's concept in both good regard and bad regard. But the problem is that people only choose to focus on the bad. And then when companies come out with all this stuff, they don't pay attention to that shit. They always keep trying to promote the video game itself. They never try to promote what's good about the video game. They just promote the video game. And that's why I thought, you know what? I'm noticing that nobody in the world, you have the opportunity to say whatever the fuck you want about a video game in the world, but you never say anything about what's good about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the first person in this world in order to say something good about it, and I'm going to put myself out there in the world, and people are going to take shots at me. Yes, they will. And I have to be able to be strong enough in order to accept that, because people are going to be taking hits at me, because I'm going to be one putting myself out there in order to physically represent the voice of every gamer in the world. And I'm fine with that, because that's what I want to do. All I needed is for gamers to tell me what they think, and I'll tell higher-ups what you think. I'll be the voice. I'll be the catalyst in between that usually gets shot. The next thing I wanted to try and do is, in addition to the activism, if I could get it far enough, I wanted to try and make history with that. I wanted to try and be the first African-American pros support video game specialist. It's a long title, but it means everything. And it's self-explanatory. Because I know in order to try and be an activist, you have to make a lot of self-sacrifice. And that's why I'm willing to give up a whole lot of stuff that I wanted to try and do with video games in order to make sure that video games can be seen in a positive light. That's what I wanted to do with my legacy. As for the completion of my dream itself, it's not complete just yet, but this year was a significant, groundbreaking first step. Like, I got a lot done in 1 year from what it looks like that most people don't get done in like maybe 2 or 3 years, if that. So that shows that there is a very good chance that I can make my dream become a reality at a faster rate than I thought. But even after 7, well, might as well call it 8 years now. 8 years, because it's going in 2016, and I did this in 2007. Going into 8 years now, I know that there's still a long way left to go, because there's still stronger people that I have to meet. There are still stronger enemies that I have to beat in certain video games in order to chalk up to my secret boss lists. There's more controversies I need to research and understand and interpret regarding video game history and entertainment history, and what's kept under wraps, what's not kept under wraps, what they want the public to know about the products or about the history of the company and the corporation. There's some video games I still need to go over and make playlists about. There's still some video games like this thing or like these or something that I want to go over, because I haven't made playlists about it, because I want to make a playlist about the video games that me and Patrick played, and about the video games me and him played and the experiences that me and him have had. I'm gonna go into a lot of those video games and go into his save files, and just take a journey through where it is that he and I last left off, and use that as my main driving force for the playlists. The main video games I wanted to try and get into next, those I'm gonna need to go into next year. There's also some more poetry pieces, but those you'll already know, they'll come as they come. I'm going to be doing a poetry piece every 100 videos, because that way it'll be a lot more meaningful when you see a poetry piece come up. It's not relevant to the preceding 100 videos, more or less. It'll be relevant to what I've written. It's not relevant to the previous posts, if any. It's going to be relevant to the poetry. So you'll just be surprised. And last but not least, I guess there's also going to be more stuff going on with the clan, and understanding what direction the clan goes into next, clan tact, where it goes into next, and that's all I can say. Otherwise, that's just a big blank, because I have no idea, because I still have to actually reconnect with the guys and then see what'll happen, because I've been away from PlayStation from a long period of time. And actually for good reason, because it felt pretty good to try and clear my head and not have to worry about updating this next, wait, I gotta go into Destiny, I gotta meet Xur, I gotta go in for the weekly reset in order to do the Nightfall, in order to farm. Oh my gosh, I missed Arms Day, I gotta go into Arms Day, none of that shit. And for Transformers, I don't need to worry about facing the higher ups. They're gonna be there for the most part. All I gotta do is just pace it myself, and I can essentially take them down little by little. Or I can eventually come close to surpassing them. And then those also are stepping stones to accomplishing my destiny. All in all, this is going to be my last video for 2015, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all the rest of that stuff as it comes. And I take the time now to really be most thankful for the opportunity to even have the opportunity of being online and having all the stuff that I have here. Because I wouldn't have been able to have any of this stuff if it wasn't for Patrick. I mean, all the files and stuff that I have, the ammo that I have for my political knowledge, all the stuff I have regarding my activism stuff that I keep on my different pages, the ability to even have all these pages, the laptop itself, this HP Pavilion, all this stuff came from him. These were all gifts from him. I owe a lot to him. Just wish he were still here to help me with this. There's a lot that I miss about him. But I know that if he were here, he'd be proud of me. That I was able to continue our work from all those years ago. And that I can be really blessed that he blessed me with something that was so valuable to him. I mean, he used to carry this laptop with him every day. And now he gave it to me. I'm not gonna lie, I mean, my work would feel so much more full if he were still here with me today. Every day without him, it's just been feeling really empty. But I do my best to try and carry on. So keep the memories and continue the work. And always remember and use the past that we had together as the driving force to try and make a good future based off of what we had. And I never forgot that. I'm just going to sit here for a minute and say again, I thank you all, to the viewers, YouTube community, and alike. Thank you for taking the time to follow this old guy's dream and trying to be the best in the world, best in the state, and just make something out of myself. Something that's... Just to make something out of myself, to know that what it is I did mattered in this world. So I just want to take a minute to just be thankful and just reflect. Thank you. Thank you for listening to my segment. This is Rodimus Prime signing off.